Because we've stripped all the heater and air conditioning out of the dash of this car, we won't be running the heater. So I've got to blank off these pipes where the water used to go from the engine to the heater. I could just blank that off and the other one, but I've learned the car runs cooler if you loop this with a hose. So I've got to run a hose from here right the way around the back of the engine, underneath the inlet manifold, right up to the other end of the engine to that hose there. I went down to my local car shop to get heater tubing by the meter, and they didn't have any, but what they did have was this VP V6 Holden Commodore hose. And as you can see, by the time I run it from there right round to there, it's going to fit perfectly. You can see I've run that hose now from there, from the heater outlet, right through underneath the inlet manifold and right round to the other side to the heater outlet. Looks like it was made to go there, doesn't it? The Prelude H22 motor is now in the Integra, hanging on its 3 conversion mounts. I'm going to fit the Prelude's radiator in because it's nice and large, and to get a bit more clearance here on the alternator, although things do clear, it's a bit close, I'm going to trim along this white line, cut out the top of the apron, and that way I'll be able to move the top of the radiator further forward and make more clearance. I've trimmed that piece out, and now the top of the radiator can come forward to there. Going over the top of where the radiator is going to be, you can see the standard front H22 engine mount. This is the 4th mount that wasn't included in the conversion kit. And there's a standard mount. I've made a base plate up for it, and now I've got to put a bar across between the toe points on which to mount it and the radiator. There's the bar that'll hold the front engine mount that I've fabricated. I've drilled 2 holes in this bar that will take bolts for the skid plate. In the past I have attached skid plates to the factory cross member and it's too weak and it just folds up. Let's have a look at this out of the car. I've added some strengthening underneath that will get welded to the bar on the plate, and the end of that plate will get welded to the factory cross member to strengthen everything up. A good result today in bolting the engine properly in place is that the power steering pump actually does just clear the chassis rails. I'll do a little bit of gentle persuasion there and make a little more clearance, but we'll be able to run that pump completely stock as is. That's great. Cage for the Integra rally car has arrived. My preference is to fit a bolt-in cage, because if the body shell is written off in an accident, it's easy to retrieve this and put in a new shell. A roll cage is not just about safety. Properly designed and fitted, it can make a huge difference to the car's handling. Why? When you fit way stiffer suspension to a modern car than it was ever designed to carry, and subject it to the loads of racing, particularly on the dirt, the chassis flexes between the suspension points. Between the front struts and the A-pillar, a front-wheel drive race car with stiff suspension will flex here, and it'll do this, and eventually that'll cause the windscreen to start popping out, which is a sign that your A-pillars are starting to crack here. Don't ask me how I know this. The way to prevent this is to use the roll cage within the car as the space frame that it is, and to tie it to all 4 suspension strut towers. At the front, this means bracing the suspension tower tops with short bars back through the firewall to pick up the main roll bar hoop front legs. A common mistake guys make when they buy a kit cage is they just leave that one bar there, and what happens is that because this isn't a triangle, the chassis can still flex. So it's very important to add some sort of bracing either to there or back down to there. That way this becomes a rigid triangle and the suspension can't move up and down. I've got the main hoop in place in the car. I haven't had to wire it in place. It's such a tight fit it just jams up the top there with a tap of the hammer. There's no spreader bar across the bottom of this main hoop to protect the driver and the passenger from side impact, so I'm going to add one, although not that steel because it's not the wrong size. I've got to get what I need, and then I'll put a bar from that spreader bar up to the seatbelt mounting bar on the turrets, and that'll give me the rear triangulation in the back to make that rear suspension really rigid.